Welcome everyone to the South End Zone. As you can see, I'm all by myself today. Normally, I have my good friend Tyler, who he loves red, and well, you know what? This guy loves red too. And since y'all still haven't beaten Georgia since that playoff game 3 years ago, you're gonna have to wear this Georgia gear in your background.
I was just about to say I'll be the faux Georgia fan today.
Oh, our good friend Jeremiah Campana is with us. Jeremiah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that good stuff. How's everything been going, and are you ready for the quarterfinal round of the playoffs?
Oh yeah, man! Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you as well. Things have been going. I can't complain. I mean, we have just, me and my household. We serve the Lord, and we've been pretty blessed this year. So no complaints on my end. As far as college football goes, I know me and you have had some back and forths in the
I hope
chat.
you know I'm messing with you most of the time. Most of the time.
For sure, for sure, it's all good. And so we wouldn't be friends if we weren't messing with each
Yeah,
other.
we do have to rib each other a little bit. So.
Right? I'd be a little worried
And
about
sometimes
our.
I will stretch and reach for like something to like grasp onto to try to get under Jeremiah's skin about like the SEC superiority. I mean, I'm right, but also I am.
Oh, for sure. And sometimes I'd be typing like, I could really say this and set chat off on a 5-paragraph tangent right now. should I?
Oh,
Should I have some?
dude, that's
No,
awesome.
but it's been, despite the games, I think, Chad, I think what we had here in this first round of the 12-team playoff is we had a lot of good matchups on paper that just
Mhm.
didn't pan out. I think, because we had talked about, how, and we even threw some jabs about how, look how great these games are. And I know that
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
been a thing,
yeah.
but I think on paper, as we were previewing these games, Chad, that they, they were better on paper than what actually
Yeah.
turned out. I think we should, I don't know what happened, some flukes and some
There's
injuries.
some nerves, some flukes, some turnovers early, different things because it. What game was it? Was it Penn State SMU? Yeah, Penn State SMU, where SMU's like driving. They're like 4th and 1 from their own. From the Penn State 19, and instead of either kicking a field goal or just when they go for it, the quarterback Jennings just like running the ball 3 more yards and where he had plenty of room and getting the first down, he throws it into the end zone. It's a little bit behind the tight end. Tight end still gets his hands on it, doesn't catch it though. So now incomplete, no points, no nothing, momentum gone, and
On the road.
Penn State still couldn't do anything. Like it was like Penn State was going 3 and out, and it was an ugly start to the game.
Yeah.
And SMU had set themselves up to actually be in good shape, and then 2 pick sixes, and it's like a landslide at that point.
Yep. Put a fork in them.
Yeah,
They're
and
done.
they weren't alone. There were I think the Tennessee game. Now I think the Tennessee game, if you look at how this was set up, like let's go back to August, right? Where was Tennessee supposed to be, and where was Ohio State supposed to be?
Right.
Ohio State's supposed to be a top two or
We're,
three
we're supposed to be
contender.
sitting where Oregon's sitting right now.
Exactly, exactly. And Tennessee was supposed to be maybe, hopefully, getting into the playoff, right?
Right.
So the fact that it went the way that it went, and like even if you look at the SEC standings, and then you go and look at who Tennessee actually beat, and it's like, well, so they beat Alabama at home, but that was when Alabama was struggling. They had lost to Vanderbilt a few weeks before that, and then they lost at Fayetteville to Arkansas, and then they got their asses kicked by Georgia, and that's about it. Like
Right.
there's not like a signature win or two for Tennessee in that whole schedule. So you look at it, it's like, well, and that's one of the things that I think they have to start to work on remedying with this whole playoff setup is making it to where the the imbalance of the schedules is somehow accounted for,
Right.
because like we talked about, like Texas did not play the same schedule that Georgia played, where Georgia had to go on the road to Ole Miss, go on the road to Tuscaloosa, had to go on the road to Austin. You know,
Right.
Texas
Right.
played all the. I showed you that graphic. It's like
Mm-hmm.
Texas played the number 10 through 18 teams in the SEC, and they played Georgia twice. They're undefeated against the bottom of that schedule, and they're 0-2 against the top of it. So,
Yep.
so something like that has to be taken into account. And when you're looking at like a Tennessee team, and you're trying to say like, okay, well, could Ole Miss have fared better against Ohio State? Probably. They have a lot more
Probably.
talent, a lot more of that beef up front. Like they went out and spent a lot on a roster too. Now they had a lot of injuries over the course of the year, but you guys did too. You guys lost a couple of offensive linemen.
Mhm.
Like it's everybody at this point in the season, everybody's dealing with that. But Ohio State is ready for a first round matchup, and I'm going to pull the graphic up where we're going to get into this new college football playoff format. And yes, the first round left much to be desired, but I think a lot of that I think can be chalked up to, like we said, some of those nerves, maybe some teams being positioned poorly because of a committee selection process that still needs some kinks ironed out. But I think it sets up to be a pretty interesting quarterfinal weekend too. On paper, a lot of these games look like they could be blowouts, so maybe we get the opposite
Right, not
effect
the opposite.
of what we got in the first round, where it looked like we had some really good matchups, and Clemson and Texas was the only one that actually delivered. And even that one was like you were hoping Clemson could maybe get another
Just
score to make it interesting,
one more score,
and
get in there,
and
yeah.
yeah, and it just never materialized. But Ohio State gets a rematch with Oregon. Somehow, you guys are 2.5 point favorites against the number one seed.
No idea how that turned out, why that is. That is crazy that we're 2.5
Yeah,
point favorites. That yeah, I mean, explain that away, especially since Oregon is getting their best defensive lineman back that
back.
wasn't
Yeah.
wasn't playing in the first matchup. So Will Howard, there's a good chance with our battered offensive line that he's going to be running for his life in this game.
Mhm.
This could get out of hand if Ohio State isn't scoring and keeping up with Oregon. Um, they could find themselves down, and I don't know that they can claw their way back if that's the case. This is going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, so a few things. One, we're bringing back it just happened to land this way. I don't know. The committee says they don't do this stuff on purpose,
Right,
but you have a rematch of that game in Eugene back in what, October, and
September.
then, or was it in September? Was it late
Was it?
September?
Was it late? Now I can't
Yeah, I don't know.
remember. It
Well,
was
anyway,
pretty early in the
whatever.
season.
It's been a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
But also you revive like that old classic Big Ten, Pac-12, Pac-10, whenever it was the Pac-10 Rose Bowl matchup in the
yeah.
Rose Bowl, which is kind of interesting. We're going to get to another one that's another rematch of an oldie but goodie with national championship implications. When Georgia won the title in '81 with Herschel Walker, they beat
Mm,
Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl, and they get a rematch of that one. But so you've got this Oregon Ohio State Rose Bowl, like this storybook Rose Bowl matchup. Um, you guys aren't playing at home this time, so
mm-mm.
you don't get that advantage. It's going to be a little different. If anything, I think maybe you might have a decent Oregon contingent traveling down for the Rose Bowl, but I think you guys travel pretty well, and it's not that far. It's not that much closer for them than it is for you guys.
No, it'll be 60-40 Buckeyes at
Mhm.
50-50 at worst.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to welcome my actual co-host to the stage now.
And finally, I
The
can get that Georgia
the
thing from behind me.
the unreliable Mr. Tyler Hohenschelt is here. He finally decided to show up for work.
Yeah.
Good job, guy. Let's hope Georgia does a better job of showing up for that game against Notre Dame
Oh.
than you did today. But no, but so let's get into this matchup, because you talked about this getting out of hand. I don't. Let me be Drew for you here for a second. Our good friend Drew Sample, not the tight end
Talk
from
me off
the
the ledge, Drew.
not the tight end from the Bengals, but our other, what is it? Columbus Wired host is
Yep.
a good friend. So I actually see this being really, really close, and I think that I give you guys the advantage. I actually kind of like this spread, honestly. I know it doesn't make sense in the context of everything that we've seen, and yes, you do have the thing. So not having a home game this time, and not having an inexperienced Nico Iamaliava and some of the other things, and Dylan Sampson getting hurt in like the first carry of the game or whatever it was. Um, there's some things that could go against Ohio State, but I think talent wise, you match up pretty well. You're also not playing in Eugene, so their advantage that they had in game one of this rematch duo is not there. But also, I think you look at the numbers, and these two teams are pretty evenly matched. And there's actually some advantages that Ohio State could take in this one. And this is some of these things where I've done it before. We're looking at overall national rankings of offenses and defenses. And when you're looking at SMU versus Penn State, it doesn't really measure up because the competition SMU was playing not the same as maybe what Penn State was playing, especially when you factor in like an Oregon matchup, an Ohio State matchup, and like a Wisconsin matchup. Some of the other
Mhm.
those matchups where SMU didn't necessarily have that. They only had the one Clemson game and then the BYU game early in the year. But Oregon with that 38th best run offense, and you've got a very stout rush defense. Then you have the 53rd best rush offense. Their rush defense not quite as good. So I don't know. We'll see if would is it
The-
Judkins and what's the other guy's name? Your other running
Henderson.
back. Oh yeah, Trevion Henderson. Yeah. So
He's been there
what?
for like 9 years.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's hey, look, and shout out to
Hey, he's a workhorse though, man. I love that guy. Ohio State's got an interesting path to victory here because I think Oregon definitely has the better quarterback for sure.
Mhm.
We overall, I think, have the better defense. Now, if now listen, that Tennessee game was the by far the best game
It was
that,
beautiful.
that was called coaching wise for Ohio State the entire season. The entire
Mhm.
season, those were the best play calls. That is exactly how every game should have been called. So you have to pass to set up the run, no matter how much Ryan Day wants to run to set up the
That's
pass.
what James Franklin does.
It's not how this team is built. You see, when you get the ball to the
Mhm.
playmakers on the outside, it opens it up for Judkins. It opens it up for Henderson, and now they're gashing for 20 yards a carry when they get it. That's the only. So we'll see how the coaching goes in this game because I am no fan of Ryan Day really. But if I don't know what happened in Tennessee. Did he give it to Chip Kelly and say, "Hey, I'm having nothing to do with this, Chip. You call it all." If
Mhm.
that's what happened, then that's what needs to happen in this game, because we can't play with puckered butt cheeks.
No.
Yeah, and that was the other thing I was going to say is like so not playing in Eugene, but also not playing in the shoe either. You're playing on a neutral site, so that changes the dynamic. But you are playing I think a game where it sets up to be a much more challenging game for Ryan Day to actually let him let things go. Like I think that's the thing that's holding you guys back from what I've been able to like measure is the talent is there and the schemes are there. It's the willingness to do the things that risk losing the game because you turn the ball over, but it's okay because that's the only way you actually like can open yourself up and let your guys go do
Yep.
what they want to do. And it's funny because I remember 2 years ago, um, or 3 years ago when whatever 2022 season. Jaden Daniels was a recent transfer from Arizona State. He was playing okay, but he was very, very careful with the ball. Was like throwing the ball away out of bounds or tucking and running. And they actually had to talk to him like, look, you got Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. You've got to throw the ball to these dudes and let trust that they're going to go and make a play. Even if they're covered, throw it to them anyway. Because a 50-50 ball to them is like 70-30 them. Let them go win that up in the air. Let your talented dudes on the outside go win the game for you. And look at what he does this second year under that system when he gets that mentality instilled in him. He wins the Heisman Trophy by throwing the ball downfield and putting up ungodly numbers, and then still running the ball like crazy, going running for over 1,000 yards as a quarterback. So I think, and Will Howard, I think if you look back at his Kansas State days, he kind of had that same like there was no governor on him.
Mm,
He was allowed to just sometimes to a fault,
right.
but he was allowed to play and go out there and win the game by any means necessary. And I
Sure.
think that's what
Sure.
they have to do to let him go and let those athletes go, so that offensively you can actually put some pressure on Oregon to where they're not just leaning on you and waiting until the fourth quarter to
Yep.
get either you make a mistake or Ryan Day chickens out and doesn't want to to challenge something.
Right, down by needing a field goal, which somehow we can't get a kicker. I've said this once, I'll say it 100 times. We literally have a professional soccer team 5 miles up the road. You can't enroll them in a class and get someone here to kick the ball. Unbelievable.
Shoot.
Yeah, this game, like we said, this game in Eugene, at the end of the day, it comes down to just a poor last drive. You didn't get killed in Eugene. Let us remember that. It was a good game from start to finish, a competitive game from start to finish. It's going to be in Pasadena. I hope we get a sick aerial shot of like the stadium split halfway down the middle. You got scarlet and gray and the green and yellow. It's going to be beautiful. And it's the Rose Bowl that we got their perfect scenario.
Yeah, we just talked about
you guys talked about this. They have the former Pac-12 team and a Big Ten team. Just how they could have dreamed it, and two powerhouses at that. I think that if they can, Ohio State can coach the same kind of game they did in the shoe, I think they have a solid chance. However, Dylan, Gabriel, and the Ducks do a very good job, and I will say Ohio State does this well too, of keeping people at arm's length at all times. Especially just how Ohio State's defense can take the wind out of your sails offensively. I feel like Oregon's offense can do that to your defense, where you have them on a 3rd and long or a third. You gotten 2 downs. It's 3 and 3. You're on 3rd down, and they just gash you for like 15, 20 yards, and then we got to run it back. We keep your defense on the field longer. I think Ohio State's defense is capable of the task of you got to get Dylan Gabriel off the field as much as possible. Don't let him get in the hands of Tez Johnson. You cannot let those things happen. I think the roster and the players you have are all very, very capable of doing those things athletically and skill-wise. It's a matter of if your coaches and scheme will give them the tools to do so, and I think you guys can win this game. That's how I feel.
Don't tell him that. He won't believe you.
I know. Drew's not here. Like, neither one of us are Ohio State fans. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt us either way. Like, but at the same, like, Drew is so good at the last episode, you actually Drew, and he loved the shit out of that. So he talks so much shit on you guys' team that you hit him with that. We loved it.
Well, actually,
yeah. So does Oregon getting their defensive end back healthy for this game change your perspective on it at all?
I mean, I think we guys' O-line's hurting.
Oh yeah,
you just got to mix up looks. Don't go at them. Run away. Go the other way. Don't run. Listen, I mean, knowing Ryan Day, he might run directly at him the whole game.
Directly at him twice in a row. Set up a nice juicy 3rd and long.
Guys, I guess we have to pass now. That's what James Franklin does.
Yeah, but I mean, no, but it's gonna be a game of I think that this is gonna be one of those games where, and this is maybe the thing where I give the edge to Dan Lanning, is I think this game could very easily become who's got the bigger balls.
This game could see overtime.
Who's willing to bring 6 dudes in pressure,
right,
on a 3rd and 3 or something like that, and risk getting screened into a 30-yard gain. Who's willing to, when they see the blitz, just, it doesn't matter, we're gonna run a go route and we're gonna just heave it up there 1-on-1 and let our guy go win. Versus, is Ryan Day just going to run the ball into the teeth of the defense on 3rd and 2, or on 1st and 10 also? But and is Dan Lanning going to,
and 2nd and 8?
Yeah, right. So if the defense that brings that pressure, that downhill pressure, and forces the hand of the other offense, and the offense that's willing to stare that in the face and just take shots deep anyway to make them pay for it, that's where I think it's going to be really fun to see who's got the bigger balls.
It's the ultimate test.
Bigger balls win.
What wins? The better roster or the better coaching? What wins? Because I mean, it's not a stretch to say that Dan Lanning in all of his glory is not just a great coach. I think he's a great coach, a great motivator. Chad, he's the person that you never have to question if he will take all those risks and then some more.
Yeah,
it's a matter of, is Ryan Day willing to match that, or at least counter what
Let's not
instead
act
of
like
people
Oregon
out
doesn't
there.
have a great roster too, though.
No,
Like that
for
Nike
sure. I mean, I'm
money,
not
that
saying
that
that.
Nike money pays for
I'm
a
not
lot.
taking
Well,
anything
I
away from that.
know.
They absolutely have some dogs out there.
That
But
speaks
like,
to the coach, though, because
does
they've
speak to
had
the
money
coach.
for a long time,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
and they've been average for the
Phil
longest
Knight's
time.
pockets run deep, brother. He can put whatever team he wants to
So
on that
you know
field.
they've had Nike money for decades, but
Yep.
they are just now elite in a good
Yeah,
team
and
where they've
it's
been
landing.
like, yeah, it is if 100%.
Well, I mean, so they did go to the national championship and lose to Auburn when Cam Newton
It's true.
was there. That was
They
2010.
sniffed it. They sniffed
Yeah,
it. But
they
I
sniffed
think
it.
that these Oregon teams blow even the Marcus Mariota Oregons
Yeah.
out of the water. Just
Yeah, that one too. Yeah, they
yeah,
lost the 2014.
yeah.
So 2010 and 2014 they were there, but that's been a decade now. And so yeah, to that point,
And who did they lose to?
It's been a long streak. Ohio State.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how let's nuts out on the table. What are we doing? How are we picking this thing?
I love the over. I don't even know what it is, but I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna look at it while you're picking over under 55.5. Give me that over.
Watch us. Watch
I don't
this.
think
We're
so.
predicting
I don't
like
think
high
so.
flying. Like watch this game finish like
It's gonna be
16-13, 16-13.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna. I don't know about that, but
It is a
I
Big
could
Ten
totally.
game.
I
It's a
could
Big Ten
totally
game.
see 24-21, 27-24, something like that.
This is the Big Ten
27-20.
game.
Yeah.
I like the over. If it was in the 60s, because it was a 30-30 game, I like that it's 55. Give me the over.
Okay.
But
But that's not what we're asking, Tyler. We're asking Ohio State or Oregon straight up money line. Who are you taking?
I think money line. Give me. I think I roll with the Ducks because of Lanning. I want to. I like the logical things, like what we just talked about. I feel like I was trying to convince myself to Ohio State, but I think that who has the more guts right now and is Oregon.
I think there's something to that. I would be willing to bet that at no point was Ryan Day was not worried about for all due respect to Josh Heupel, but I don't think he was worried about Josh Heupel coming with wrinkles where he was going to get out coached. I think there's a legitimate fear that like Dan Lanning's got something that he's going to bring that, and I think you go into that. And I've watched it. I witnessed Les Miles being our Ryan Day for a decade plus, and it was
Mark
like
Richt.
Saban had, Mark Richt too. It was like Saban had some sort of like voodoo doll with Les Miles' name on it, and he would just like stab him in the back of the head and make him do something retarded like halfway through a game, just because of like that fear. He was like he pissed down his leg when he was playing it. So I'm not saying that's where Ryan Day is, but I think we've seen enough even this year where it's like Penn State and Ohio State, that game went down to like which one of them wanted to let the other one fall through the door first.
Run, pass, brother. Run, pass.
They were both like, if James Franklin would have taken a shot, Penn State wins that game.
Right.
And instead he didn't. And Ryan Day, like Ohio State did just enough to be allowed to win the game by the team that didn't want to win it a little bit less.
That's a perfect breakdown and analysis of exactly how that game went. And again, because they weren't calling these games like we did against Tennessee. I don't know, man. I listen.
That's my fear for you, Jeremiah.
Yeah,
I don't think that the team can't execute. That's my only fear for you. And if they can play like they did in against Tennessee, I don't think anybody can beat them. I really don't.
Right.
I don't think anybody beats them. Period.
The question is, will they be allowed to do that?
Right.
Because I feel like I don't know. I mean, Tennessee was a top 10 team coming into that game, right?
Yeah. One of the other things we talked about, Tyler, though, was like, do you remember where Tennessee was
preseason
back in August?
Oh,
no, I'm saying like in August, where were they? Like they weren't.
Were they even top 10?
A lot of question marks. They were top 15, I think.
Yeah,
but they were.
Yeah,
they were not. They were not up there. You know, Ohio State was like preseason favorite to win the whole thing.
Right. I give the Ducks a slight edge. Chad, how do you feel about this?
I mean, I kind of feel the same way. I feel like I'm not going to be
intangibles.
surprised at all if Ohio State wins this by like 10 points.
Right.
And if that's the case, then I think it gets out of Ryan Day range, But it's like when you have a guy who has the yips, you want him to
putting
be
it
able to
mildly.
you want him to be able to just chip it in from the bunker. You don't want him
Yep.
to have to make a 13-foot putt or a 6-foot putt to win the Masters. And that's where Ryan Day is. If Ryan Day's got to sink a 6-foot putt to win the Masters, he's going to 3-putt it.
Yep.
And that's where I think this is. And Dan Lanning is just like, fuck you, I don't care. I'm driving every green.
Yep.
And that's the difference. Like, it seriously is like a. Did you guys ever watch the movie Gattaca with Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman? Well, never mind then. But there's this part of it where like they do this thing where they swim out. It's like one genetically inferior brother and a super, like, I don't know, whatever, master race kind of whatever. It's weird. It's a movie about like genetically engineering your children and all that stuff.
Oh.
Well, anyway, the genetically engineered kid versus the natural kid. Well, they do this thing where they swim out as far as they can into the ocean, and then they do it one last time when they're like in their 20s, and the quote unquote inferior one just whips his ass. And he's like, I don't understand. He's like, how did you do it? How did you save enough energy for the swim back? And he's like, that's the thing. I didn't save any for the swim back. And that's kind of when you have that mentality of like, I don't care if we lose playing our game, we're going to play our game.
Mm-hmm.
Versus I feel like there's, and all the hot seat stuff with Ryan Day does not help this. There's a sense of, let me make sure I don't screw this up. And that's how you actually, when you play not to lose, you are going to lose unless you get very lucky.
It's true.
For sure.
So, but I'm open to being surprised by Ryan Day.
Right. Me too. That's how I feel.
I hope to be surprised by Ryan Day. That is my, you know what? And it's on my, actually this game is on my birthday. So that is my present.
Happy early birthday, Jeremiah.
Baby New Year. All right.
Yeah.
Don't blow the game, Ryan. That is all I want for my birthday is you just did not suck on the sideline.
Yeah. Because look, so when LSU had to play Alabama in the national championship in a rematch, we had beaten them 9-3 in Tuscaloosa in overtime. And we get, for some reason, they were runner-up in the Western Division, still get to play for a national championship. We're like, all right, fine, let's do this again. Dude, like, it was 21-0. We didn't get the ball past midfield until, like, the fourth quarter. Like, 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left in the game. And the whole time I'm watching the game, and I'm just like, you cannot run all tunnel screens and draw plays and stretch plays and QB runs and beat a team like this. They have 11 people in the box and they're just all downhill, killing you every play. You might get sacked. You might even throw a pick. But if you don't challenge them deep,
right,
they're gonna just keep bringing the dogs all day, and they're gonna eat your lunch. They're gonna bring everybody all the time, and you've got to have the balls to say, like, you know what? If we lose 45-17, so be it. But we're not going to lose 21-0, never moving the ball past past midfield.
Right.
My feeling also,
and I'm not saying it's like that for y'all. Like,
Yeah.
y'all are way more talented, and your coach is a lot less of an idiot than Les Miles was.
Well,
But
our defense is, I mean, our defensive coordinator is finally stepped up to the plate. I think our defense it will keep us in this game if Ryan Day is choking it away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's the thing. That's, in a way, it's almost like that makes it worse,
Right.
Because it's like a safety blanket for him. He gets to lay back on. But anyway, we didn't come into this to just talk nonstop about this Ohio State matchup, but there are some other matchups beyond the Oregon Ohio State game. But this is a big one. It's probably the biggest one of the weekend. But look, there's some doozies down slate too. And it starts with none other than my friend Tyler's Georgia Bulldogs. 1.5 point
actually
favorites.
ends with this one on New Year's Day.
You know what's crazy about this is that of the higher seeded teams, Georgia is the only favorite.
Yep.
Oregon is a dog.
Really?
Oregon is a dog. Boise State's a dog.
Wait.
Arizona State's a dog.
Oh, I guess Arizona. I
Higher
was like higher
seeds.
seeded. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that's actually crazy.
So Georgia is the only favorite. And look, let's break it down. So you got the number 11 rush offense against the number 32 rush defense. Georgia hasn't. It's crazy. Like Georgia's defense hasn't been like insane
At times,
but when they
but
want to
the
be, they're ridiculous.
It's absurd. Like that's like the crazy part is that's like
the numbers look like crap. Honestly,
it does.
It looks like a mid team defensively.
But
32nd against the rush and 70th against the pass. It looks like Notre Dame's just going to go up and down the field on you.
But that defense contains a Buckets award-winning linebacker.
Yes. Well, and they have taken one of the most prolific offenses in college football this year and shut them down twice.
Yeah, turn their offensive line into a turnstile, which it made me. I will say this, and vice versa. Like when I watched that Clemson game, it made me feel so good about our trenches on both sides of the ball. The way that we were like the way that Texas just absolutely blew up Clemson's offensive line, and on the flip side, Clemson cannot get anywhere on Texas for the most part.
Well, Tyler, is your quarterback going to be able to handle this pressure?
Here's what I know we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
because I was going to say this number 12 pass offense. That's with a whole different quarterback.
That is it might be just. I mean, I don't know. I'm shocked that we're actually number 12 with the quarterback that we had. But Gunnar Stockton coming in.
Well, that's just based on passing yards per game, I think. So
Kirby feels good about it.
Interceptions into account.
Kirby feels good about it. The guys feel good about it. This is now having the keys to the offense. This is when he came in and against Texas. I think they were giving him opportunities, but at the same time they were playing. Saban was saying that we were giving him full reign. I feel like we were definitely I don't think that at all. I think we were like, this is the second string guy. Let's get out of here. But now he is the dude. Beck declared for the draft. Stockton's going to be the guy. Most likely be the guy next year. And when you talk about history, it likes to repeat itself. We've had many, quarterback changes in our time. And it started in 2017 when Jake Fromm had to take over for the hurt starter Jake Eason and had to make his first career start. And his first win was Notre Dame in South Bend. And where did he go? National championship.
Right.
And then Mr. Stetson Bennett, two-time national champ, did not have to play Notre Dame, but when he took over for Mr. JT Daniels, where did we go? National championship. Yeah. Just saying. We like him a lot. I mean, Saban could not stop talking about Stockton as a recruit. He's from some very, very incredibly small town in the mountains in Georgia. 5-star dual threat quarterback. I think that he has way more charisma than Beck. I like that. I think the guys will feed off that. On the flip side of things, when it comes to the defense, if we cannot tackle, Jeremiah Love will run for 250 yards.
Well, and
Riley Leonard will also get going.
Yeah, Riley Leonard, because that's the thing. You guys have had trouble with running quarterbacks too.
Right.
Brock Vandegrift did it to you guys. Jalen Milroe obviously did it to a lot of people, but did it to you guys as well. Jackson Dart did it a little bit. That was just a weird, ugly game in the rain. But he also.
Guys,
you gotta go.
I gotta go.
No
so
worries.
Here's my prediction. I love Marcus Freeman, but I hate Notre Dame. I think this game ends 24-17, no matter who wins it. Whether it's Notre Dame or Georgia, it ends 24-17.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. Peace, Jeremiah. Thanks for coming through.
I gotta say, I like it's like watching them against Indiana. I was like actually impressed with certain parts of their game, especially like Notre Dame's defense. Their secondary to begin with. So that's why I'm a little nervous with the new quarterback.
Yeah.
And everything. How are you feeling right now? Like I need to be talked into this a little bit more. I am more nervous than I thought I was going to be until after the Indiana game.
Yeah. Name an Indiana receiver.
I can't.
I'm just saying. Okay. So now they did their thing a little bit against A&M in that first game of the season, but they really it's hard to gauge because as we saw with Indiana, it's like okay, the fact that they really never played anybody was actually a thing because they kind of got exposed where it's like, wait, you had the number one rush defense in the country, and you just got shredded like this
Right.
by a team that is good running the ball, but they're not like this isn't like some triple option run the ball for 300 yards and
Mm-hmm.
don't do anything else offensively kind of team. Notre Dame's a pretty balanced offense that they're not as good. Riley Leonard's not as good of a passer, but they've got some dudes that they can throw the ball around a little bit. But they've been a pretty standard pro style offense with a
Mm-hmm.
dual threat quarterback, not a triple option wishbone crazy gimmicky. We're going to run the ball 75 times a game. So they had the 11th best rush offense. Okay, great, and they didn't do it against a whole lot of stiff competition either. But what we saw with Indiana is like, all right, their number one rush defense didn't look so great against Michigan, against Ohio State. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what does it really mean? And so that's why I look at this, not to take anything away from Notre Dame's secondary. I think they do have some dudes. And the other thing is their defensive line has some dudes that makes it to where they can kind of protect that back end and make
Yeah.
those dudes comfortable going one on one
Yep.
on the back end because they know that they don't have to guard dudes for 10 seconds.
Right.
You've got 1, 2, you better get rid of the ball because people are coming at you and they're going to be in your feet, they're going to be in your face. So I think it's that combination of Notre Dame's pass rush with their and also like their scheme and their discipline.
Yep.
Like they actually pretty sound. So
Yeah.
I but you guys you guys have some dudes. It kind of comes down to the same thing. Like, does Gunnar
Right.
Stockton turn the ball over less than Carson Beck? Do they let him open up the offense a
They
little bit?
will. They absolutely will.
Do we have a Garrett Nussmeier versus Georgia in the SEC championship type situation where he
No,
actually looks
because
better than Carson Beck? Um,
well, maybe.
and
I think he will. I think he might. I think he can. I think he believes in himself for one,
Mhm.
which is huge. He
Yeah.
did it coming in against Texas. He did. He's not afraid to move. He gives us more of a threat when he drops back to pass than Beck did. Aaron Smith can catch the ball from him.
Hmm.
Also huge. We need that in the biggest way possible.
Yeah.
And our running game has finally established itself. ETN has looked good. So is Frazier. We have an identity. I think running the ball a little bit more at the right times. We'll have everybody available. I think other than Beck and I know our punter is no good. He tore his ACL trying to make a tackle. He's a Aussie football guy. He wanted to get in the action and
Yeah.
didn't. But I don't know. I think we have to surprise Notre Dame early, show them who we are
Mm.
and like where we are against them. And like they haven't. I don't know for a fact they haven't seen a defense like ours.
Hmm.
I know for a fact they probably haven't seen an offense like ours, other than Texas A&M. That's an SEC style team. I think
Yeah.
our defense is better when they play well,
Hmm.
mind you. That there's a lot of caveats to these things because we have shown the Georgia team is has been on a spectrum essentially of how well they'll perform all year long. It's not been like a crazy we're building up because that was what our national championship runs were before.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, we have an all world defense. Let's just get the offense time to go. Now it's both sides of the ball at different times. At least it has been. I think we found consistency around the time of the Tennessee game, and then Georgia Tech was a nightmare, and then we played well against Texas.
Yeah.
So we have to be consistent early. I don't think we can rely on we. I mean, obviously Kirby will always make second half adjustments, but we can't just roll over and expect to win the game in the second half.
Yeah. You can't be down by
No, we have to be. If
17
we're
points.
losing, we have to be. It has to be like a touchdown or less. But if we're
Hmm.
losing at half, like we have to be like respectable.
Hmm.
We have to be able to tackle. I think that our inability to tackle will kill us in this game with the threat of Riley Leonard and Jeremiah Love. That is something I will say for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, because Leonard will just pick you apart with little 12-yard quarterback run here, 18 yards on 3rd and 9, that kind of thing. But Jeremiah Love is, I mean, you saw it against Indiana.
Yeah.
95 yards, boom, house,
Boom.
or
See you
98.
never.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
he's
mean,
he's a he's a threat to hit a home run from anywhere on the field.
I'm
So
so excited for this game, though. Sugar Bowl, you got to
gonna be
love it.
nice.
I'm excited. New Year's Day in the night as opposed to New Year's Eve.
Mhm.
We'll be up late for this one, but I'm very excited.
It's a rematch of the 1981 Sugar Bowl.
It sure is.
Yeah.
And
So
which we came out on top. So we're going to
right.
keep that thing rolling.
That's right. That's right. There you go. There you go.
Oh.
All right. So let's go ahead and pick it. I like this. I like the 1.5. Give me Georgia minus 1.5 in this one. I still think you guys have enough. I think that Notre Dame hasn't seen if that defense that we saw show up against Texas and show up when it's time to show up, like they did in the second half against Alabama. Like they did at the very end of the Georgia Tech game after they had been just looking like they were out of sorts. They rose to the occasion and made plays when they had to force another overtime and then another overtime and then another overtime. So, I watched that sort of stuff go down. And then what they did in that second matchup against Texas, where you actually went into that one down at half instead of being up 23-0 at half. And they rallied behind a backup quarterback, really playing in his first real action in his career. Because you can say what you want about all that other stuff, but that other stuff was mop up garbage time.
Right. He played in the.
This was like you
yeah.
actually are playing meaningful snaps where the game relies on you not screwing it up, or actually you've got to engineer a comeback.
Which he did.
And he did. He got it
Yeah.
done. But the defense stepped up to support that
For sure.
too. So the whole team did really. Like
Yeah.
O-line protected him.
I think we all
ran
get
the ball
up.
well. Receivers caught the ball for a change.
I think we're going to play with our hair on fire, and I'm going to love it. Ideally, we went 45 to nothing, but knowing the way the way this season has gone, I guarantee you this game is going to be decided in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I would assume so. I would think you want to have at some point where you've got the ball and you're trying to get one more first down so you can go into victory formation.
Yeah,
Better to be in that
will not be the
situation
case.
than to be in like we need to drive the length of the field and get a field goal or we're going to lose, or get a touchdown or we're going to lose. You don't want to be in that situation. All right, so moving along. The first game of this weekend slate is tomorrow night. It is Boise State, Penn State, on New Year's Eve. And Penn State is an 11-point favorite, despite the fact that Boise State boasts the number 6 rush offense with the number 1 running back. I don't know, since who knows when.
Barry Sanders,
Maybe Barry
Melvin
Sanders.
Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, something. Yeah, Melvin Gordon in that area. But yeah, so just dominant run game. Penn State's got a really stout rush defense, number 11 in the country. Penn State's rush offense 16th, but Boise State's 14th against the run. So it looks like this thing is going to be settled in the passing game, unless Ashton Janty just really does his thing, or Singleton and
Allen, Katron.
Yeah, Allen.
Yep.
If they can get their act together and do what they did against SMU, then you're looking at a potential game 1 in the trenches. But I really think I look at this: Boise State, not a great pass offense. Penn State, not much better. Penn State's got a really good pass defense. I'm sorry, wait, do I have that right? This is supposed to say pass defense at the bottom, but it doesn't. Well, anyway, that's Penn State's pass defense at number 12, not offense. Their offense is number 41. Anyway, but Boise State's got a really bad pass defense, which is crazy because this is like passing yards allowed, and I think some of that is also like some garbage time stuff where they're giving up yardage late in games when they're up. But still 113 in against the pass when you have, I think they're like second or third in the country in sacks per game
Mm.
by their defense. So it looks like they're kind of like feast or famine, where they're gonna come after your quarterback, and if they get to him, you're gonna be behind the chains, but you might be able to make it back up because they're gonna give up some stuff on the back end if they can't get to the quarterback. So how do you see this one going? I think this spreads too much. I think Boise State at least has enough to keep it closer than that. I don't want to go out on a limb and say that they're going to win this game, but it's at the Fiesta Bowl. Boise State has some history at the Fiesta
They
Bowl.
sure do, and they're wearing
Remember that
the same
Oklahoma
uniform.
game?
They're wearing their same uniform combination.
That's right. That's right.
They're wearing
So,
the same
how
uniform.
do you see it?
Statue of Liberty, bring it out. I think that if Boise State wants to make this something, it's going to be the same with Arizona State. And I said it last week. When it comes to games like this, moments like this, and you're the lesser team on the spread, and whatever you want to say it, you got to punch them in the mouth right away.
Mm-hmm.
You got to draw first blood, and you got to make it a game early. You cannot, let a team who's objectively better than you, or subjectively, whatever you want to say, like how, I mean, the stats,
Yeah.
better than you, figure themselves out if they aren't already doing that before the ball snaps. Like
Mm-hmm.
you
We
have
saw it with SMU. SMU
right.
played with running away with that game early, and Penn State was busy
At least try to make it
not being able to
competitive.
get out of their own way, and then
Right.
SMU, turnover on downs, 2 pick sixes, and next
Mm-hmm.
thing you know, you're staring at a 2 touchdown deficit.
Right.
We
I
should
just
have
want to
been
see
by a
what
touchdown
Genty
or
will
two.
do. This
Yeah.
is Genty's, they've been saying this, that, and the other thing about you and your stats, and like you've been playing these kind of teams. Well, this is your moment, man. Like I mean, if last weekend says anything, it's Penn State in a rout.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm,
it's hard. It's really hard to get a beat on a game like this. I mean, I think the most obvious answer is Penn State kills them, but I think that Boise State and Arizona State, which we'll talk about, both have the opportunity ahead of them to make this a game if they do it right early. That's my feeling right now. Aller, I mean, they didn't pass. I mean, the pass game was not much really there for them. It was more just like random dump offs as people were laying around his feet. If you let Abdul Carter, that feels right,
mm-hmm,
make a mess, then you're also screwed.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's Penn State's pass rush is going to get home, and so you have to be decisive and quick. You have to mix up looks. I mean, obviously they're going to key in on Genty up front, so you
Yeah.
got to make your money in the pass game or something. You can't be stagnant. Honestly, if you're Boise State, make it enough of a game where James Franklin chokes it. Just make it
Yeah.
enough that he has to think about it, where like your defense is not just handed 2 touchdowns by the
Mm-hmm.
opposing quarterback. Like if you don't do that, like if you're Boise State and you can make it a game early, I think you have something here. I mean, I think they could cover. I don't think that's
Yeah.
out of the realm of possibility. I don't think they win this game.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm not saying it's against the same competition or anything like that, but Maddox Madsen has thrown for 2,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, 3 picks.
That's impressive.
And he's, and Cameron Camper at receiver, 55 catches for 837 and 4 touchdowns. There's some, he's no Tyler Warren, but he's,
That's the other person you got to worry
yeah,
about if
they've got
you're
some,
Boise
yeah,
State.
right. So what I'm interested to see is like if Boise State comes out and sees the writing on the wall that if they just try to hand the ball to Ashton Jeanty, you know, 15 times in the first quarter, they're going to be running him into a brick wall, and
Yep.
that they've got to do what Jeremiah was talking about that he would hope that Ohio State would learn to do, which is throw the ball to set up the run, open the soften them up in the middle by hitting some quick hitters, maybe taking some deep shots. You're gonna have to come out and try to do some stuff. You cannot just come out
Take
here and try to play it soft. I would be better with taking a couple of deep shots and going 3 and out than
That's the Mike
trying to
Bobo
run the
way.
ball up the middle and still going 3 and out.
That's the Mike Bobo way. Like I feel like you got to do if it's one thing's for certain that like our opening play of our opening drive, we're gonna throw it deep down the sideline and see what happens, and then we're gonna run it on second down. Like,
That's fine. That's fine.
Like,
That's fine.
so
You want to give
if you're Boise State, do that.
give
Unload the
Janty a draw
playbook.
play on second down or something.
House money, unload the playbook. What do you have left to lose? You are Boise State playing Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl.
This
Unload
is exactly
the playbook.
that's what I'm saying, and I'm gonna cap it into existence. Here we go. Got my Boise State Broncos hat. Look, it's legit too. This isn't just like some Denver Broncos hat. That's the Boise State logo right there, people. See that?
Yeah.
That's the Boise State Broncos. All right. So Ashton Janty, let's go. Let's get it. Get those 140 yards or whatever you need to break the record. Even though it's stupid because it's way too many games.
It is.
It's still
what
cool.
do you think about that? What do you think?
I don't like it. I don't like
Will
that.
it
I
count?
I don't like the Cam Ward getting like all extra touch, like having the Division One touchdown record because he threw for like 75 touchdowns at Incarnate Word. That doesn't count. Like nobody cares.
Will it count?
They were saying he has the most, oh, will this count for the record? I don't think it should. I think first of all, it should be a regular season record. And second of all, if it's going to be a larger, longer record than that.
Well, I think if it breaks it here, it counts, right? Like because it was. Did Oklahoma State get a bowl game and a championship game, or no? How many games did Barry do it in?
They would have gotten only a bowl game, if that. I don't even remember what their record was that year.
Okay, but I know that Barry's definitely done enough games.
I don't even think it should count like what Burrow did in terms of the total numbers. Now, I will look at that and be like, that's the most dominant offense we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And you look at the dudes, and it's like, okay, Joe Burrow, number 1 quarterback in the league this year. Jamar Chase, number 1 receiver in the league this year. Justin Jefferson, the number 2 receiver in the league this year in the NFL. So, like, obviously, those 3 dudes doing what they did in college that season was legit. Now, you go back, the guy who had the record before, Colt Brennan, did that in an era where it was like, 12 or 13 games, I think, with a conference championship and then a bowl game or whatever. But still, that was under a more quote unquote normal circumstance than Burrow played in 15 games. So the numbers that he put up in a total sense are kind of inflated by getting a couple of extra games. Especially when one of those games in the playoffs against Oklahoma, he threw for 7 touchdowns. And he legit could have thrown for 10. He had 6 at halftime. And then they just backed off, and he only threw 1 more. Justin Jefferson had 4 touchdowns in the first half. He could have had 5 or 6 easy.
Yeah.
But anyway, it is what it is.
I think Penn State runs away with it.
Points. I say take the points on this. You think Penn State runs away with it?
I think Penn State wins. I think Penn State wins in the end. They might not run away with it, but I think they win in the end.
I do too, but I think Boise State
covers. As the game goes on, I think Penn State will take over.
Yeah, it'll be interesting though to see because I think now the difference between this and the Fiesta Bowl in 2008 was Boise State's not catching anybody off guard.
No,
even though they were 13-0 that year, I think they still everybody's like, yeah, this is a joke. Like, why are we even playing?
Emptying the playbook, especially in that game.
Yeah, and that was in the era of like the bowls where I think the guys from Oklahoma were probably disappointed that they weren't playing for a national championship, and there's a whole different mentality. You saw that. We're going to get into that when we get into some of these bowl games that have already happened. When you have dudes who are like trying to make a statement versus dudes who are trying to not get hurt and get to the draft, it's a whole different vibe. When you're willing to dive on the floor for the ball versus being worried that you're gonna, you're gonna dislocate your shoulder if somebody lands on you. The guy who is willing to dive on the floor and risk injury is gonna get the loose ball.
Fiesta Bowl.
That's where Boise State was, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that it's going to be the same way this time, but yeah, it'll be fun. And then bringing up the rear, even though it's the 4 o'clock game on New Year's Day, Arizona State, Texas. This was kind of sneaky too. Like, yes, I think Texas is that good, but I think Texas has also shown that they have this vulnerability
They do
where they will play with their food too much,
in random
and
points in the game.
they could let Arizona State just like Quinn Ewers will turn the ball over
Yeah,
inexplicably, and like something crazy is going to happen. And look, the way the numbers match up, Texas has a mid rush offense. Arizona State, number 22 against the run. Arizona State, number 18 rush offense against Texas's number 13. I think that's advantage Arizona with Cam Scatabo versus, Texas kind of doing their hodgepodge of running backs and the fact that they haven't been that effective running the ball. I think that benefits them. But then you flip to the other side, and in the pass offenses, that's where it's going to be like, can Arizona State do enough to kind of limit the huge advantage that Texas has in the passing game? Because Arizona State does not have a good passing offense. They're missing their number one receiver. He dislocated his shoulder or something. He's out for the
he's
season.
done. Yeah,
Yeah,
Jordan Tyson.
yeah. So, and Texas has, at least by the numbers, the number one pass defense in the country, even before that. So you're going to have your work cut out for you, even if he's playing. And the fact that he's been out for like, the last couple, 3 games
He's
and
done for the
ended up
year, I
playing in
think.
this one, and he's done for the year. It's good. Yeah. And now they had some dudes step up for him in their conference championship game, and they got it done. But then you go to Texas's pass offense, and yes, Quinn Ewers will throw the ball around, turn it over, and Arch Manning will come in and he'll run the ball more than he'll throw it. But Arizona State's pass defense is not great. So how can that advantage be leveraged for Texas to overcome the fact that Arizona State's going to try to run the ball and control the possession, control the clock, and maybe create a couple of turnovers to narrow that gap. And if you look at what Clemson did, that's kind of how they hung around and
Yep.
kept making it a game, even though it shouldn't have been.
hmm I mean, here's what I will say. When you talk about Dillingham, the coach of Arizona State, he's in that same vein and same attitude as Dan Lanning,
Mm-hmm.
where it's that "fuck you" football.
Mm-hmm.
We're here and we're playing, and you're gonna have to deal with it, and
Yeah.
we're gonna give you
Yep.
everything we have and more, and all the players are gonna play like that. Levitt, quarterback, will play well, and it's good, dude. Like that's the thing is, I don't think that Clemson had enough of a running game to establish
Mm-hmm.
to really mix up looks against Texas. To where they
Right.
knew that it was all gonna land on Klubnik, and the Texas could just pin their ears back and get him every time,
Yeah.
or at least
But
make him
Clemson
uncomfortable.
still put up numbers
He
in that
did.
game.
He absolutely did. I'm just saying, like that. It seemed to be like whenever Clemson's offense would fall short, it's because he took
Oh,
another sack or would
right.
have to, they would live. They were essentially were living and dying by Cade Klubnik in a
Right.
sense,
Right.
like in their offensive game plan. Levitt plays well, has played well. That's one of the reasons that they are here. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the X factor is Scattaboo, and he's the ultimate like once again, fuck you football playing
Yep.
out of his now he has to like it sounded like he was almost getting too out of his mind playing. Like he had to calm down a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
but he plays with such passion.
If you're a coach, though, that's what you want. You want a
It's
dude who you have to
absolutely
tell
what
to
you
calm
want.
down. You don't
This
want
is
to have to rile him up.
Arizona State once again. I sound like a broken record. You punch him in the mouth early. You're not in Austin,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you punch him in the mouth. You show him you're meant to be here. I think that Scattaboo can get loose, and that's going to be scary for Texas. I think they're going to be on their heels. And I think, if Arizona State's close, you're going to make more mistakes. Yeah, dude. I mean, shit. Arizona State was picked to be last in the Big 12, and here they are.
Yep. Well,
Like,
and isn't it crazy that the two teams that no one is giving any respect to in this quarterfinal round have the two most dynamic running backs in the country?
yes.
It's and I realize that, and this is the thing I've tried to explain to people, like it's so much easier to shut down a running game because all you have to do is commit numbers to it, and
Yes.
it's different from you can try to take away a receiver and you can try to take away a quarterback, but it takes so much more numbers and
Yeah.
so much more scheming to take away a passing game than it does to take away a running game.
Speaking,
If you can't throw the ball, I'm
yeah,
just going to load the box and
right.
force you to try to throw, and I'm going to trust my guys one on one. But if you can spread it out a little bit, if they can do enough, if Sam Levitt and Maddox Madsen can do enough in the passing game to soften up the middle and force them to commit numbers to the back end, to where now you're running up against a 7-8 man box instead of a 9-10 man box.
Hmm.
Um, then it's a little bit of a different game. And
Yeah,
and then you let Scattaboo and Janty, and I don't know if I think Scattaboo is a little easier to get him involved in other ways,
for
whereas
sure.
Janty's stuff has mostly been just like turn
Running
around,
downhill.
hand the ball off to him, let him run downhill.
Yep.
And if he can't run downhill, it doesn't matter. Like it's and that's what I was trying to tell people. Like, look, with all due respect to Travis Hunter, and we're going to talk about them in a little bit, going out sad like they did, but Travis Hunter doing what he did versus Ashton Janty doing what he did. If Hunter had done what he did, in spite of everybody triple covering him on every play, then I would be impressed. Even double covering him on every play. But
Hmm.
they're just playing him straight up. And then he still, what did he finish? Like 15th in receiving yards in the country?
I think he was like the statistical, like maybe top 6, top 7. I don't know, but like he wasn't even top 5. Talking about numbers, though, coming back to this game,
Mm-hmm.
you talk about the quarterbacks. You got they're not that. I mean, you think it'd be like marginally insanely different, but
Mm-hmm.
Ewers 28-67 in terms of yards, 26 tuds, 10 interceptions. Levitt 26-63, 24 tuds and 5 picks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like the throwing, like the yards is not that. It looks like, and they're not throwing for that much different in volume. I think
Well,
that
and
Ewers
Ewers
has
turns the ball over, putting it on the
right
ground too. He'll
exactly.
take a sack and get and his ball security is not great.
Hmm.
So it's a yeah it and that's the
Arizona
thing.
State's
Like,
live in this game a little
yeah,
bit.
both of those games, Boise State and Arizona State, if they can create a couple of turnovers, win the turnover battle, it's a game, and we're in for like a show.
They're live.
If they can't, if they lose the turnover battle, or they can't generate those extra possession or two, or an onside kick here or there, something fake punt, whatever kind of stuff you have to do to give yourself another possession. If they can't do those things, then I think the favorites win those games.
Hmm.
But I think there's enough there to keep it closer than these spreads. So uh, we shall see. So it's
Hmm.
time to move on. We've got some other games to talk about as well. Um, we'll start with LSU and Baylor in the Texas Bowl on New Year's Eve. So LSU went from a 2.5 to 3 point favorite to they're now a 2.5 to 3 point dog. It's moved around from like 1 to 3, but they are underdogs now. A lot of dudes for LSU have opted out. Um, there have been some surprising opt-ins as well. So the biggest one being Garrett Nussmeier, of course. But I don't know. This was going to be interesting if they can protect Nussmeier, keep him upright, and then it's going to be him throwing to basically Aaron Anderson, Chris Hilton. I don't know if Kyle Parker's playing. You got Trudez Green, who's like a tight end playing receiver. It's going to be interesting to see what they put together. Xavion Thomas, another guy who they could, and then Jawan Johnson is going to have some opportunities in this game. So it's just what can they do offensively, and then defensively. Major Burns is out. Sage Ryan already transferred to Ole Miss. You lose a bunch of other guys. You don't have to deal with this because your guys are playing in the playoffs, so nobody's quitting yet. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. I'm gonna put my money on Nuss and hope that
For sure.
LSU can do enough to stop Baylor's offense, because Baylor's defense is going to give it up if LSU's playing their type of game.
I'm on Nuss to send now that he's decided he's coming back to LSU. I think I think he ends his year on a high note to then start his next year on an even higher note. Like I know you talked about Burrow's first year to his second year. Now I'm going to be
Daniel's
honest.
first year to second year,
I
same
don't
thing.
think that Nussmeier is as good as either one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
However, he could absolutely improve from this year to next year. In a big way.
So let me say something about what you just said. You don't think he's as good as either of those guys.
Well, we also have the team.
Do you know what? Wait, do you know what people were saying 2 years ago when I was telling them about Jaden Daniels comparing him to Joe Burrow?
That's fair.
He's not Joe Burrow. He's not as good. You're being ridiculous. Stop trying to compare these things. I'm like, bro, watch.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
Watch. And
I'm happy to be proven wrong.
He wins the Heisman. I'm not saying Nussmeier's necessarily going to win the Heisman, but as soon as they put the lines out there, I'm throwing a few ducats on it.
I think he absolutely has I think he has the absolute opportunity to play better next year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll be hungry to do it.
If he does what Burrow and Daniels did, get in the film room at 5 o'clock in the morning every day for a calendar year, I think he's got every opportunity to do that and then some, because they've got some dogs coming through the transfer portal to play. They've got some dogs that they recruited out of the high school ranks that could contribute immediately. Harlan Berry at running back. And they've got some dudes that they brought some offensive linemen in to help out. So we're losing Will Campbell and Garrett Dellinger and Emory Jones to the draft, and Miles Frazier he may get drafted, but he's just out of eligibility. So we're returning one guy from our starting 5 on offensive line, but we brought in some dudes from the portal. So and then brought in a bunch of receivers, linebackers, edge rushers, all that good stuff. But for this game, it's going to be the skeleton crew that is going to be trying to get it done. But it's a chance for a lot of those dudes to really prove themselves. Yep. And Caden Durham, another guy to keep an eye on because he's explosive out of the backfield and could really do some things. And I'm looking for Caleb Jackson to actually do a little bit of something as well. And then, Josh Williams playing, his last games in a Tiger uniform. It'll be interesting to see how he comes out and performs. So we're going to quickly run through these other SEC games. We got some SEC Big Ten matchups. Right now, the SEC is 1-2 against the Big Ten, 5-3 overall. Tennessee and Texas A&M with the 2 losses to USC and obviously Ohio State. And then earlier today, we had Missouri knocking off Iowa in a barn burner. That was a really good game. But South Carolina, Illinois, if everybody's playing and everybody's ready to go, give me South Carolina.
In a route.
Yeah.
Give me South Carolina all day long. Give me the Lenora Stellars. They got the transfer kid from Ohio State they'll have around next year. Listen, Lenora Stellars, I wanted to know once these Heisman lines come out next year.
Yeah.
I will have tickets on DJ Lagway, Lenora Stellars until they graduate. That's how it is. That's how it's the truth. I think we have South Carolina in a route. Especially if oh my God, the 2 guys we've been talking about all year long on their defense.
Oh yeah. Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart. Is that his name?
Kennard and Stewart. I know that for sure. We always call them by their last names.
I know. It's. I think.
Yeah, Rocket
Dylan
Sanders and Nick Harbor.
Rocket Sanders. Yeah, Nick Harbor. Yeah, it's.
They all are young, if I'm not mistaken. That's a pretty young team.
Sanders isn't. Sanders isn't. But he's. I think he's still got another year before he can.
I know Kennard and Stewart are older. I think, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's
so. Yeah. Give me Lenora Sellers any day of the week. South Carolina.
Give me Shane Beamer too, man. Give me Shane Beamer all day.
Listen, he's taken a while, and I give South Carolina credit for sticking with him. I feel like, another program might not have, considering where South Carolina's always been teetering. They've had enough wins to keep him around. This is a big year for Shane Beamer, and I like the trajectory of the South Carolina Gamecocks, and give me them.
Shane Beamer over Brett Bielema any day.
Right, damn right.
Yeah,
right.
So moving along, Alabama, Michigan. I don't have any idea who's actually playing.
Bro, me neither.
But I think Jalen Milroe's playing. I don't know.
There's rumors he's going to transfer or something. Is he not? Is he not going to the draft? Is he draft eligible? Is he? How old is he? I'm so confused.
Was he a true freshman when Bryce Young was because this would be his third year, so he would
I'm
be
I'm
draft eligible.
beyond. That's what I thought.
'Cause he was a true freshman, I think, when Bryce Young got hurt, and he came in a little bit 2 years ago, and then last year was his first full season. But I think he was a true sophomore.
Was last year
Um,
really his first full season as quarterback?
yeah. Bryce Young was the quarterback 2 years ago.
Dude, time is weird sometimes. I don't know
Yeah,
why I feel like he's been there for longer. I feel like us beating Bryce Young in the national championship was like eons ago at this point. It's like
for
it's
real.
just it feels so long ago. Well,
Yeah.
also, I mean, I've also like a lot of things have happened in my life since then, so maybe that's why it feels so long.
Mhm.
But
Yep. So it's
this
either a
game is
chance
going to be
for
ugly. Give me the this game is going to be ugly. I don't even know what to say about it. Who's going to suck more? I don't know.
yeah,
It's not
yeah.
going to be pretty. I don't know what it's going to look like.
And,
Alabama
and
may
if it
kill
was
them.
Saban coaching, I'd be like, give me Alabama all day. But
I mean,
I
if
just don't
no
know
coach
what
is
to.
playing, give me
I don't.
Alabama.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Because they can just be like, yeah, man, you got it. Do your
gonna
thing.
run for 300
Um,
yards. And Ryan
yeah.
Williams. I mean, honestly, let's be real. Milroe and Ryan Williams enough can get this done. I mean, I know that
Mhm.
Michigan's at least strength has been their defense this year. So
Yeah, and Jeremy Bernard's pretty good too. Don't forget about him.
this is true. I know
Um,
they've just had so many guys leaving.
yeah,
Like
Justice Haynes left, and well,
right.
I think they said Caden Proctor is coming back. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what all this stuff looks like.
I have no opinions and all of
Yeah,
opinions at the same time. All my
exactly.
opinions don't affect the outcome of this game. I know that.
Right, right. Then we got on January 2nd, Ole Miss and Duke in the Gator Bowl. So those games we were talking about before are all New Year's Eve games. And then you've got the big playoff games on New Year's Day. And then we go to the Gator Bowl on January 2nd, Ole Miss versus Duke. Duke paid $8 million to Darian
Insane.
Mensah to come from Tulane. I don't even know. Like, is he that good? I mean, he's pretty good, but I don't know if that's like Bryce Underwood money. What are you
This
talking
is for
about?
next year, right?
Yeah, for next year. So like Duke doesn't even have like I don't know. I'm very confused as to what's going on here. I don't know who's playing for Ole Miss. I know that they had like a revolving door of who might be playing for them all
Yeah.
season this year. So who the hell knows at this
Here's
point?
here's how I've been kind of looking at these bowl games is like who's if you look at the two teams, whose second strings should be whose second strings? Who do you think? If you're just looking at them
But
objectively,
no, but
who
it's not
hasn't
really like that though because like there's been a lot of these teams that I really think it's whose number ones actually care enough
that's
and want to
also
play.
true. It's a lot to think
Because
about.
you
Like,
saw that with Brady Cook today was like he was like I'm not going out like a bitch. I'm finishing my career with a flair.
yeah,
And you saw the opposite. We're gonna get into it. Let's just go ahead and get into
yeah,
it now
let's do it.
because it's time to expose. We talked about them early in the year. We called them frauds in like week 7. Miami showed how soft they were, lost to Iowa State. Now, not to take anything away from Iowa State, but Miami, you were supposed to be a national championship contender in your own minds. Your quarterback just quit on the team in the fourth quarter and let the backup go in and try to win the game for you, and you lost. Iowa State came back and beat you 42-41. So, Miami, again, as a fraud, you are exposed. Now, one that I was very disappointed in was like I thought BYU had a good team. I still thought Colorado, the fact that Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter and Shiloh Sanders and all these dudes were like playing and they were
Yeah,
ready to go, and Dion was like, like getting them to play. I was like, you know what? Big up on them. That's pretty impressive. Like, I I thought it was cool. I wouldn't not have been surprised at all if Dion would have just put Shador in bubble wrap,
right,
but he may as well have.
right. It's going out as sad as humanly possible. Like, and to be fair, I was listening to this game on the radio because I was driving. I forget was like probably to work or from work or something. Probably from
Mhm.
work. That feels right. Yes.
Shador Sanders looked like Fran Tarkenton.
Yeah.
If you were watching it, he was like running around in circles in the backfield,
Yeah.
running backwards, throwing the ball backwards
I listened to the
sometimes.
game. I was listening to the game, and I think it was a third down on their side of the or like within their own like 5-yard line, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden he scrambled and they were on. It was like no or second. down inside their own 10 or first down or something where like he somehow lost them a 30 yards on a scramble. Sanders, and then apparently it sounded like Hunter's body language was garbage. He was pissing and pouting and like going out like a you are the Heisman Trophy winner. Like, and I'm not trying to sound like
that's what they get for giving him the Heisman Trophy.
Right. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm hating.
His attitude is completely different.
Yeah, I'm not trying to sound like I'm hating, but it's just like, yo, man the fuck up.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, look, you heard the stories, right? Maybe he's not capable of manning up.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it just pisses me off in a sense of like, I understand where they're coming from enough to have given him the Heisman, but like, you go out like a bitch. Like, I'm sorry for all of these.
If I'm a GM, I'm not drafting him.
Directed at a college athletes, like I apologize for that, but like that's like it makes me angry because I believed in them in this game. I guess that's why I'm mad about it, is because it's like since the start of the bowl season, this is the only game where I'm like, yeah, give me Colorado all day long.
Yeah, and so that's why I was saying, like, this wasn't whose twos can beat whose twos. This was BYU's ones saying, "Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, keep talking about Colorado and don't even say a word about us. We'll do the talking."
Yeah, they shut me the fuck up. I'll tell you that much.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, I see you.
Yeah,
and that was just their ones coming out ready to play. And I'm telling you, if I'm a GM, I'm not drafting Travis Hunter. I don't care.
I try to mold Shedeur Sanders. I would try to mold Shedeur Sanders, but Hunter,
no,
I agree.
I think Shedeur still has. And look, I want to say this. I'm not putting this on him necessarily. Like, I think BYU just brought like so much numbers, and then if your number one receiver is not really in it and doesn't really even do anything until you're already down by 4 touchdowns, it was like 27-0. Like, I'm sorry, but like I can't fault Shedeur for what happened in that game.
No, it's going out sad.
It was very sad. But it's why we said that Ashton Jeanty should have won the Heisman, because he was a more deserving, and I think he would have represented the brand better. Now, USC Texas A&M 5. We got to pour one out. Let's get my water bottle here and pour one out for I don't want to pour it on the keyboard, but all right, there we go. Pour one out for Texas 8-4, because they have given way to Texas 8-5. Took the lead late. Marcel Reed scores on a little scramble, a little zone read, and takes it to the house, and then they just get housed themselves. Now, this is another one of those ones where, yes, maybe in this case, who's twos, but there were enough ones out there. But A&M had like 3 defensive linemen who were like drafted. They're going to be drafted in the first 2-3 rounds, and they weren't playing in this game. So it's like a lot of this was, I don't know what USC actually did, if it's that impressive, because this was not A&M's full strength team. But I also am not going to take this opportunity off where I get to clown them for being 8-5 after they were 7-1. 7-1. Like, you lost your first game of the season. You won 7 in a row, and then you just coughed up 5 out of the last 6. Good job. Well, it's those yell leaders. They I saw the Christmas pictures. Missouri, Iowa, we talked about this one. Music City Bowl was really a good one. Went down to the wire, and Missouri hit a 56-yard field goal to take the lead, and then made a 4th down stop on 4th and 1 to turn Iowa over and take that one home. And look, you who didn't lose to Vanderbilt? LSU or Georgia. You know who did? A team that beat Miami. Georgia Tech lost 35-27.
I will say nothing.
I know you can't say anything because y'all almost lost to Georgia Tech too. Oh shoot. Anyway, that was a good game too. This was a great game, and I got to give it to Brett Venables. Tried to go for 2 after they scored, and they didn't get it, and so they lost 21-20 to Navy in the Armed Forces Bowl. I think it's a little unfair that you're playing in the Armed Forces Bowl and you're playing against one of the service academies,
Isn't that always
and
the case though?
yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, but you're just
Oh,
Oklahoma, like it's like the bowl is rigged
it's
against
their
you.
ones. It's guaranteed their ones. They're not transferring. They got
They're not transferred. They're not going to the draft. Like
yeah. They're
I think they
going
had like
one
three
place.
dudes drafted ever. Um,
They get what they
but
go one place and one place only, and they're all
that's
playing.
that's right. That's right. Oh shoot! And then Arkansas, Texas Tech. Arkansas just kind of ran away with it late in the Liberty Bowl. Taylor Green did his thing,
He's
and
good,
that one
man.
was, yeah, he looks good. Yeah, I mean, look, it was so funny too because back to that Iowa Missouri game today. Look, I watched Iowa blow a 24-14 lead because their quarterback threw for like 70 yards the whole second half. At
Yup.
one point, he had like 36 yards in the second half, and that was like before their last possession or something like that. It was atrocious. And then I go to the SEC, and we've got dudes like Taylor Green, who's like the
Stud.
eighth best quarterback in the SEC or the 10th best quarterback in the SEC, and he's just lighting people up. And he's a freshman or a sophomore.
He's young. You and I have believed, but you and I have like been on in his corner. Like all the people that say that you and I just talk shit.
Mm-hmm.
This is a kid who we've been in his corner most of the year.
Yep.
I'm just letting you know.
Yep.
Like put that
Taylor
out
Green,
there.
Taylor Green, should Lenore Sellers, DJ Lagway,
Yep.
Nico Iamaliava, like these are all like freshmen or sophomore, like really good guys who. Oh, Marcel Reed, another one at A&M,
Yep.
another freshman. Like there's some dudes, and these aren't even like the dudes who are like at the top. This isn't Jackson Dart and Jalen Milrow and Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning. Like these are like the low tier. Even Brady Cook at Missouri. Like those are the dudes that are like the top of the
Mm-hmm.
thing, and Garrett Nussmeier too. But yeah, so then DJ Lagway did his thing in the Gasparilla Bowl as Florida just blew out Tulane, and that's pretty much it. That's a wrap for our recaps of the games, and we got some good stuff coming up, man. It's going to be a fun weekend. I'm so excited about getting to see this next round of playoff games. I feel pretty good that we're going to get some better stuff than we got the first time.
I hope
And,
so. I'm really hoping.
yeah, and I hope that the real magic comes from those games that nobody expects it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Georgia, Notre Dame, and Oregon, Ohio State are going to just organically be. It doesn't even matter if they end in blowouts because everybody knows these games are like legit.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see those other two games. I want to see those teams show out and prove to everybody like, look, we belong here.
Yep.
It would be really fun to watch. Those games go down to whoever has the ball last. One possession game late kind of thing. That would be really fun. And I think it would be more fun even if Alabama might. Miami, excuse me, South Carolina and Ole Miss were in there because
Oh
I think
well.
I think Cam Ward probably plays the whole game, and so expand the playoff one more time. Let's get it to where we have either a 16 or a 24 team, have eight buys or have four buys, however you want to do it, and then work your way down to
Mm-hmm.
that. But this thing of like trying to subjectively choose who deserves to be in out of teams that, like, I think you left out four teams, at least four, but definitely four who had a legit like claim to like we're just as good as the teams that are in the top three or four.
Yeah, I agree, but just don't lose to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, and we don't have
I
this
agree.
problem.
No. I don't disagree that
Yeah.
in a 12 team playoff those guys
Oh
didn't
well,
belong
yeah.
in. What I'm saying is that those guys belong in an expanded
Oh, for
playoff.
sure.
And then I think you get better first round matchups, and then it becomes a vetting process to where now you've proven it because we've already talked about it. Like I think you could look at it and look at Tennessee's schedule and who they actually beat. Who did Tennessee actually beat? Alabama when they were at home, and Alabama was like reeling at the time. Okay, you lost to Arkansas at Fayetteville. Your other wins are not like the top tier of the SEC. So what did you really do to be like the third team from the SEC in the playoff? I think South Carolina's resume is better. Alabama's resume is better. Ole Miss's resume is better than Tennessee's. But I don't disagree that if you're going to have 12, Tennessee with only 2
Yep.
losses belongs in there ahead of. But at some point, the schedule disparity has to be addressed.
It does. It will.
Because
I think
even
it has
within a
to.
conference, it's not the same.
There's just so many so many teams. Nobody plays the same schedule.
Yeah, you can't have
Yeah.
18 teams in one conference, 16 teams in another conference, and you're only playing 8 of them or 9 of them.
I agree.
Because
I'm
then it's just the
excited for
luck
these
of the draw.
games.
Who do you get to
I'm so
play?
excited.
Texas got to play y'all twice and
Yep.
nobody the rest of the way.
I'm so excited for these games. I can't wait.
Oh, me too.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I was excited no matter. I was excited about the first round. I'm excited about this round. We got to play. I believe in Gunnar Stockton. I believe in the boys. Go Dogs. I'm just praying to the Lord above. I know Notre Dame is too, but I'm praying harder that when you and I have this next episode, that we're talking about our next round and not, and that'll be it, folks. And we're talking about other teams now.
Yeah.
So,
Me too. I hope. Well, I know I'm going to be recapping a game for me, and we're going to be recapping a game for you. But I hope we get to do another preview for you guys.
Yes, we do.
And then at some point we're going to have to address the monster haul LSU has gotten in the portal, and then when you guys finally get involved in the portal,
dude,
we'll talk about when you guys.
We that's a whole different episode. But I've been I swear to God, everybody who's watching, I've been texting Chad like on an almost daily basis, like, "Oh my God, y'all are cleaning up in the portal! Oh my God, y'all are cleaning up, taking everybody's, doing what Lane Kiffin and Ohio State did, and said we're gonna do it better." That's what I gotta say.
And we're not paying nearly as much as they did either.
True.
The other thing too, it's crazy. So, all right, we appreciate y'all coming through. This has been the South End Zone. I am Chad. He is Tyler. We're gonna catch y'all next time. Happy New Year, everybody. Peace. We're out of here.